Hey everybody, and welcome to the Space Coast, a brand new edition for you. I'm your host of the most, Julon Williams, just spaced out, and I mean way out groove conductor. And today we're going on an elegy of good energy, a cruise to the cosmos for some stellar tunes, and we'll be tackling a very important subject to me personally. In life, we have an eternal rival, one that never leaves our side, and that thing is called procrastination. Now, I know I tend to procrastinate a lot, and hopefully I'm not alone in this boat and I'm not preaching to nobody, but I realize a lot of people tend to procrastinate. And the thing is with procrastination, we don't do it intentionally, it just happens. We try to get started on something and we just don't for whatever reason. And I feel it's important that we kind of tackle this and break this down so we can find ways we can be a bit more successful. Now, I'll have a caveat for you. I'm gonna let you know beforehand, I don't have the end-all be-all answer for all this. I can't just say, do this and you'll never procrastinate again. That's unrealistic. Like most things in life, you have to work for it. You gotta keep practicing and keep putting the work in. All I can do is offer you some tips and tricks that have worked for me, and if they work for you, that's stellar. If they don't, then hopefully by telling you what I have going on, you can incorporate this into your work, into your life, and find ways to make it work for you. So, in terms of procrastination, we'll be breaking it down into three categories. 1, the causes and reasons for why we procrastinate. 2, the effects of constant procrastination and how it can affect your life. And finally, I'll touch upon the methods to combat procrastination and maybe stem the tide to help us out to be more productive. So, causes. I mean, as I said before, a lot of us don't procrastinate intentionally. I mean, who would want to sit there and be like, I don't want to do this today? Personally, if you want to get started on a project, you will do your best to get to that little category, that way, the workflow you need to get there. But there's something wrong. There's always something wrong. You never know what it can be. It can just pop up for you. It can be stress. It can be the fact that things look far away. There's a lot of factors that procrastination just creeps up into our lives and tells us, nah, we're not going to get anything done today. So, what are some of those causes? Well, a far off due date. Say we have an assignment or a project that we have to do and it's not due for a long time. Well, we just kind of look at it and go, have a full month to work on this. Why would I take care of this now? I don't even got to think about this. It's like 4 weeks away. But if you think like that, then 4 weeks becomes 3 weeks. And then 3 weeks becomes 2 weeks. And then you're working on a month's workload of work in a single week. And that will drive you insane. Trust me on that one. When we see long due dates, we're less inclined to worry about it because the future is far away. It's not tangible. We can't believe it. At the last episode, I talked about how our future is actually closer than we believe and closer than we perceive. So when you have a project that's far off and a full month away, it's actually better to get started as soon as possible rather than kind of say, I don't need to focus on this. I have a full month to work on this. It's not even going to come up. I'll have this all done. The sooner you get started, the better. Now, there might be a good reason for why you don't get started on a project with a far off due date or due time, and that could be because you have more pressing matters, and that's understandable. Human beings are very complex individuals. We all have things going on in our lives that just can't be written down and put in place for our projects. It could be like a family matter, family crisis. You never know, maybe you lose your wallet or something and that takes time out your day. There can be pressing matters that take time, or it could be another project in particular. If you have something that's due in a month and something that's due in like 2 days, you're more inclined to work on the thing that's due in 2 days. But it's important to realize that priority takes key. You have to start prioritizing what you need to do and what is most important in your life. I know you want to hang out with your friends. I know lunch at this place is beautiful. They got the nice little sandwiches that you like. But if you don't prioritize your work, then you're just wasting time on that front and getting yourself closer to procrastinating when you don't intend to. So when it comes to procrastination and these pressing matters, if things start stressing you out too much, you might find yourself with a lack of motivation or lack of work ethic. And I will attest, this is the biggest factor for me personally. Whenever I try to get started on a project, if my mind is not 100% into it, I struggle. I sit there, I twiddle my thumbs, I look anywhere else, I check social media, I go online, I watch some YouTube videos, and that's not beneficial and that doesn't help us out. And that leads to our work ethic. If we're not motivated to get started on a project, how will we ever get going anywhere? If you open a paper and you see you want to get started on something, and you know you're not really into it or really trying to get started, you're not gonna do much. You're gonna write 1 or 2 sentences, which, I mean, you're doing something, but it's not as pivotal or not as important as what you could be doing if you're more interested and more influence into your work. A factor that also plays a big piece to this and big piece to causing procrastination is your environment. Believe it or not, the location you choose to do your work, the location you choose to study really affects how you get started and really affects your production and your workflow as well. If you want to study or get a project done and you have a TV right here and your game console here and your social media there, you're less inclined to actually focus on the thing you want to focus on. The temptation is all around you. And human beings, we live for short gain. We love our temptations. We love things that get us happy real quickly. That's what we search for, the quick hits of dopamine. So if we want to study and we know we don't like studying and it's a bore and I hate this subject and I don't want to look at this anymore, we're less inclined to even take a gander at that page when our PlayStation's right here. You may even tell yourself, if I study for 15 minutes then I get 10 minutes of game time, and that, my friends, is a death sentence. You start that game and you're not stopping that game. It's enjoyable and it takes the toll, because if you're doing something more enjoyable rather than putting the work in, you're losing the time to actually practice and get that stuff done. Now, all of this is encompassed by one umbrella and one big factor that plays into procrastination, and that is stress. Stress is a key factor that makes us procrastinate. And it may seem counterintuitive, it may seem contradictory. How is that possible? If I'm stressed, I should be more inclined to get started, right? Well, yes and no, because if you stress yourself out, you don't even want to think about that thing. I've had various situations personally. I can attest to this, that when I want to do a project that's due in about 3 days, and I know the time's counting down, and I'm nervous and I'm stressed about it, I want to do anything but that project. It's scary, it's daunting to think about, and I don't want to approach it. And I know I'm not the only person in the world, and this experience probably can't be attested to everybody, but for those who understand, you get what I mean. It's really hard to get started and really focus on that when you're stressing out about the big picture, the big factor, and what you got to get done by now. So, we covered some reasons and some causes for procrastination. I think we can all understand that we all may see some situations or some of these causes that affect our lives personally, and hopefully if you do, I can get you started on thinking on some ways to combat those, and some ways to really approach them in a different light and see what can I change here and what can I fix. If you like the show, please give us a follow on Twitter or Instagram at space__coast. That's 2 underscores. And please give us a follow on all social media at DCSA Media Hub for more great content and more great work from a lot of excellent creators. For now, we'll take a musical break. Our first song is Hands in the Air by Sound System. And welcome back to the Space Coast. We're surfing through space on some supersonic sounds. That was Product 29 by Aphex Twin. And today on the Space Coast, we were talking about procrastination. So far, we covered the causes and reasons why we tend to procrastinate. I went over some stuff once, and mostly the big factor of all of it is stress at the source. So now that we know what causes it, I figure it's time that we explore some effects that constant procrastination can have on our lives. And this is also a personal testimony. I've been there and I've seen how this changed my academic career for the worse. So a big factor that kind of affects, that procrastination tends to affect, is our workflow. We tend to see a more erratic workflow and situation. Let me explain this in more further detail. If you plan out your projects and you plan out your work in advance, say your project is due in a month. If you were to plan to do 25% of your project per week, you'd be done on time with more time to spare, with a few moments or a few days to even get some peer feedback and some suggestions from your professor or your client or whoever it may be. So you get 25% in week 1, 25% in week 2, 25% in week 3, and the 4th week you finish it a little bit earlier so you get the actual feedback. With that, you're not stressing yourself out. You have a proper timetable, you know what you want to do by then and how to get it done. With procrastination, it doesn't work out that way. And you find your numbers to be a bit inconsistent. You're going up and down doing this. You'll be like, maybe I can get like this part done by today, but you don't. So you push off to another day and another day. And in week 1, you've only finished about 10%. Week 2, you're busy, things are pressing, you had class here, you had this to do, so you only get 5% done. Week 3, you get another 10%. You only have 25% of that project done by week 4, meaning you have to do 75% of your workload in a week. It's difficult. It's not always as simple as that, of course. It's really erratic and really finicky, but the thing is, you can't keep track of it. Because when procrastination takes over, you don't win. You try your best to fight through it, but if it wins, if it beats you out each and every single time, you're finding yourself grinding at work limits, at due dates. You're pulling all-nighters when you don't need to. And that leads into my second factor. Crunch time is a bigger time for mistakes. You'll find you'll make more mistakes rushing to get things done than if you slowed down, took your time, and actually planned things through. Because crunch time, we're less focused on finishing, or less focused on getting a good quality piece of work in, and more focused on finishing. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. All it matters is if I have enough words down on a page. If I can reach the limit, who cares if it sounds good? I just want to get it done. I don't care how it goes. I just got to get this finished. And that's what procrastination does. It leads us to wait till the last minute, where we don't even have the amount of time to do more research and search for more sources that make sense. We don't have that luxury anymore. All we have is a luxury to just write all we can. Whatever comes to mind, we throw it to the wall. It sticks. Doesn't matter if it doesn't, we'll put it there. We'll tape it up. It doesn't add to productive work. And the reason why is that you're less focused and less inclined to get that work done early or put the effort in to plan it out. You're showing a lack of care for your work, whether intentionally or not. What I mean by this is when you actually plan things out and you have a certified system, a certified diagram you can go off, maybe a rough draft or a rough copy, you know what you want to do and you know where you can expand upon and improve. But with procrastination, you won't put that effort in. You don't have the time to. You don't have the luxury to. You kind of just do your best, but you know it doesn't accumulate to your best. You're worth more than you think. And with procrastination, that kind of takes that away. You don't really focus upon what you can do. You focus on what you can get done immediately. Your work slips because of it. More accidents, more mistakes, less grammar. You might do the. I've done that way too many times personally. But when you're not focused and you're not giving yourself enough time to get things done, you are going to see that work slip. You're going to see your work not look up to snuff, up to what you expect it to usually be. Not only that, but your work is less refined as a result. And because it's less refined, you get worse marks, or maybe worse feedback from our clients, or maybe you will never work with that client ever again. And that's not something you want. In this world, it's really all about connections in any industry you get into. Whoever you're connected to can really help you out to push your career up a higher path or make you work a bit harder. School situation as well. If you're really good with your professors and they see your work and they like your work, they're more inclined to give you more opportunities, connect you to more people that they know who would appreciate your work or can really take on what it is you're doing. However, if you procrastinate and nothing is coming in on time and you're working end to end, pulling 2 full-nighters in a row, you're not gonna get those connections because your work is not refined as a result. You have more mistakes. You don't really have time to second guess whether that makes sense or not, or that even fits to the subject, or whether you even need that into your subject or not. You don't really have the time or the quality to accumulate the proper marks that you're going for, or what you expect, what your workflow is meant to be, what your work is meant to represent. Because we all know, if you get to this point, whatever point of life you're in, you got there for a reason. So if you work hard and you worked hard all your life and you're falling to procrastination, then you gotta pull your socks up because that reason is gonna change. Your situation will change accordingly, and you don't want that to happen. It's important to get procrastination out of your life because these effects can really ruin your career, your academic career, your life in general, because you expect yourself to reach these goals, but if you can't even reach the small goals that you set for yourself and you're rushing to get them all done, you will never reach that level that you want to achieve. You're missing out on connections because of it. You're missing out on opportunities to show yourself, to prove yourself, to try new things, to to really put yourself into your work and make it shine and make it brilliant and make it all you. If you procrastinate, the opportunity flies out the window. You don't get the time to put the little extra special sparkle that makes you special. You don't get to put that in. It's only time to get the thing done and not worry about it. You finish it, you turn it in, you don't really check over it again because, well, it's due in 2 minutes. There's no time to check over it. So procrastination can affect your life drastically. If you keep procrastinating, more and more projects keep piling up and more deadlines keep approaching quicker and quicker, which means you won't get time to get out of that procrastination loop until you work to achieve, to plan it out, and to know and schedule yourself accordingly. So, I think we all know the effects of procrastination and how it can affect you and really change your life for the worse, not for the better. So from now, I think our next subject we're going to talk about would be some methods we can use to combat procrastination. It is your greatest rival after all. So if you can't find ways to beat it or beat it out a few times, and you will succumb to it. And that's not what we want to see at all. But before that, we'll take a small musical break. Our next song is Touch by Christoph El Torrento. Now, if you like the show so far, give us a shout out or give us a follow on Instagram or Twitter at space__coast. And please give us a follow at DCSA Media Hub to support all our stars and our troopers because they're all putting in work and making such great shows and great content. And you can only find that here on riotradio.ca. Welcome back to the Space Coast. Here on our cruise through the cosmos, we're discussing Procrastination, the eternal rival. The song you just heard was Worst Ever Contender by Resit. Now, we tackled the reasons and causes for why we procrastinate. We've seen some effects of what happens if you constantly procrastinate in life. Now, if you waited this long, we're finally going to talk about some methods you can use to combat procrastination as a whole. Now, once again, I will make the claim that this is not forever. You will not just eradicate procrastination. It won't just disappear if you do this or you snap your fingers or run into a circle 3 times. It's not the case. Procrastination will always be around. It's one of those things you always have to fight. But with some tips and some tools and some tricks, you can really refine your process in helping and stopping that situation from ever arising where you feel like you should procrastinate. Or if you notice you are procrastinating, to help you stop doing that and get started on your project quicker and faster. Now, to get started, you always want to get started on your project as soon as possible. As soon as it's given to you, make sure you write down the due dates on your calendars, on your phones, in your notebooks, in your planners, anywhere and everywhere you use so you can see it. It is always visible to you. You know when it's due, you know what you should be doing and when it should be done by. This is important because seeing is believing. When we see something, we're more inclined to get things done, to help it, to combat it, or to finish it. Because if it's tangible and we can see it, we can get it done. If you don't write no due dates down, you're likely to forget it. It will just be in the back of your mind, and that's not too good. Memories are kind of iffy. We may forget some things that are not important to us, and we learn so many things in a day that you won't believe the amount of things that you forget in that same day. So if you don't write down your due dates, don't write down what you should be doing for a project, you're more likely to forget. And the last 3 days when it's going to be due, you're going to be like, oh geez, I got to get this done by now. Oh, I should have had this started. So get started as soon as possible. Like the same day, the same hour if possible. If there's nothing important that you got to do, get started ASAP. Now, a second situation that you want to use if you want to stop procrastination is to get yourself a perfect environment. Now, of course, I don't mean like a nice little heavenly place with gumdrops and rainbows. I mean an environment that'll help you study, to get you inclined to get the work done, with no distractions. Your phone, get that phone out of there. Don't even put it near you because it's going to distract you. Unless you need it for the project, there's no reason to have your phone. And if you do need your phone for your project, find some apps that will basically close off social media for you or delete it in the meantime. Because social media is an easy way to get lost. It's a cave that you just go down and keep scrolling into, and you can get lost in it rather easily. All the pressing news, you look on Twitter and you'll be lost for 20 minutes. Don't look at your phone. Find a place away from your TVs. Find a place away from your computers. Find a place away from your game consoles. A library is the perfect location, and for multiple reasons. If you're a student, a library is heaven for you, because not only is it a quiet place where you can study, there's a lot of desks and a lot of locations you put yourself down and find your perfect place and your perfect mood and atmosphere you need to get your work done, but also everybody else is quiet and silent. And if you're like me, seeing people work and do their projects makes you more inclined to get started and to do something and get that paper down. Also, it's source heaven. If you're writing a paper, you can find a book on whatever you need to write about. And right there, you don't gotta look online, just look for your little location. If you're writing a book on technology, go find a technology section. You'll be sure to find something that will help you out. So your perfect environment is key. If you're in a place where it's really busy, really loud, if people are talking to you as you're trying to get work done, you're not gonna get things finished. Find a place that will help you study. Drown things out with music, not like lyrical music. Instrumentals work best. That's why I play a lot of instrumentals to get the mind thinking and creative juices flowing. Instrumentals work best because they keep you focused on the task at hand while also providing a soothing sensation in the back of your brain. Now, the most important fact, the most important tip I've ever received came from a friend. When it comes to starting work, this has changed how I go about doing anything. He gave me 3 simple words. Eat the frog. Now, I don't mean literally. Do not go to a pond and find the juiciest frog you can find and shove in your mouth. Don't do that. But literally or figuratively, start with the hardest part of the project. Now, whatever that may be, if that's getting everything planned out, if that's writing this source or connecting these sources together, or that be finding all the computations or the coding you need to do, or that be the mathematical equations, whatever it may be, start on that first. If at all possible, get that going, because once you do so, if you get that hardest part of your project out of the way, you're less stressed because, you finished the hardest thing first. You also build up some confidence as well, because now you know you've done what you need to do. Everything else is the easy streets. Who needs to worry about the rest of this project when I can just write down this or this or this? I have all the meats right here, so I can just make the potatoes afterwards. I can put all the vegetables here and there and make it look fine and refine that plate. But by eating the frog, by putting the steps in to get to that hardest part, if you can't just do it off the bat, you're setting yourself up for success. You're starting that situation, and if you have a beautiful plan to help you get there as well, magnificent. You're on the path to success. Procrastination cannot stop you, because you finish that hardest part, everything else will be easier. So even if it does sink its claws into you, you don't have to worry about getting 75% of the project done, because you have the hardest part done. Everything else is easy. You write what you need to write. You fill what you need to fill. Get to that word limit if you have to. But from there on out, the hardest part is the most important thing. You build that confidence. You take care of what you have to. You don't have to worry and stress about, I don't know if this will be right. And if you can't get to that part initially, do all the steps you must take to get to that part. If you don't understand it, ask. Reach out to your professors. Have them explain it to you. That's also a really difficult part for some people. So if you have to do that, take that necessary step and as precautions to set yourself up for success. Procrastination is something that fights everybody. It affects us all without us even trying. We don't want to procrastinate, but we end up doing so. The thing is, there's always steps we can take. We must put ourselves in these proper situations to set ourselves up with a proper environment, to give ourselves a nice little plan that we can go on by. If we plan out what we want to do by day by day, we know where we should be. And if we're not there, well, we take care to be there by the next day, and so on and so forth. So by the time we want our project to be finished, it should be finished. If we eat the frog, the first few days, it may be tough, but afterwards, it's all easy. The easiest way to stem procrastination is to set yourself up for success. Plan it out. Get started as soon as possible. Put yourself in a proper location that will help enhance your learning and your working capabilities, and eat that frog. It's not tasty. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you get that done, you are on easy street. There's nothing else stopping you from getting to where you need to be, from finishing that project, and from getting that relief off your shoulders. So, we learned a lot about procrastination today. To sum up our situation, we learned reasons why we procrastinate. If we see a far off due dates, if we have more pressing matters, if we have a lack of motivation or ethics, or a bad environment, or stress piling up, we're more likely to procrastinate. But we don't want to fall into procrastination's clutches, because if we fall into those clutches, our workflow becomes erratic. We start crunching more, which leads to more mistakes. We show a lack of care of our work into our work, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It's less refined, we lose more marks, we lose more interest in our clients, and we lose more connections for doing so. So it's important to get these steps in, get some tips and some tricks. If the tips I have provided have not worked for you, you tried them before, then all I can hope is these have helped you think of more, or to get that creative juices flowing so you can actually process what does work for you, or to put yourself in a proper situation for that. So that's probably all we got going on for the Space Coast for today. I want to thank you all for coming out. If you like the show so far, give us a follow on Twitter at space__, that's 2 of them, coast, also on Instagram as well. And please be sure to give everybody a follow on DCSA Media Hub and any social media you got. You have some talented creators. We're always putting up something new for you to check out, something new for you to engage you and to get you going through the workday. For now, to play us out tonight, we have Only You by Intense, only on riotradio.ca.